Hello and a very warm welcome to you. This is the courthouse where we get to learn the law in plain, simple and entertaining language, and we are glad to be back on the show. This week on the show we have something very interesting, something that will send you thinking. But we'll go on a quick break and we'll be right back.
It's been 10 years. Yes, Love Class is 10. Thank you, our esteemed viewers, for making us your preferred station. Thank you for staying with us through the years. You are a part of our success stories. It's our festival of vibes.
You're welcome back. As I said, this week we have something very interesting, something very exciting, and something that you will shout about. It is the Control of Infectious Diseases Act. And we are looking at the legal ramifications of that act. We're looking at how this act will affect our constitution and our legal system generally. Why is this act coming into being at a time like this? Are we suspending our constitution? Are we suspending the rule of law as we know it? We're joined by a senior legal practitioner via Zoom, and he'll be talking to us on the legal implications of the passage of this bill. We are praying it should not be passed, but we'll talk to us about what the bill is about and what will happen if it is passed. He is CHIBUZOR AGUOCHA. He's a senior legal practitioner based in Nigeria, and we're joining him right now. Hello, sir. It's good to have you on the show. We would like you to just comment on give us a general background, a bird's eye view into what the Infectious Diseases Act is all about.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let's lay a foundation for the Infectious Disease Act that has been proposed by the House of Reps and National Assembly. The COVID-19 pandemic is no longer news. It's ravishing the world now, and Nigeria is not an exception. Countries have reacted accordingly based on the legal regime available to them, their infrastructure, vis-a-vis the health sectors, to combat the scourge of this pandemic. In Nigeria, at the onset, we tried to do a response to the pandemic. First, there was a declaration by the president directing certain states to be locked down. And this was done pursuant to his powers under the Quarantine Act. Particularly, Ogun State, Lagos State, and FCT were the first states to be affected by this presidential order. Now, there were different schools of thought as to the propriety or otherwise of such an order. Whether the Quarantine Act actually empowered the president. Now, the Quarantine Act was passed, it's more like a colonial act, first part 1926, then 1929 and 1954, before it was enacted in 2004 as a law of Nigeria. Now, that act empowered the president to declare an area isolated area for the purpose of preventing the spread of an infectious disease. Now, further, Nigeria has the NCDC Act. The NCDC Act of 2018 set up the National Center for Disease Control, which has its core mandate, that of preventing, collating, researching, drawing regulations for the management of infectious diseases. Now, with the combination of this act, Nigeria swung into action with a view to combating the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we can see that despite these measures, that we are still far from containing it. It is very, very necessary to mention at this point in time that our response to the COVID-19 pandemic is not in any way inhibited by absence of or lack of a legal regime. Just people felt that we needed a more comprehensive act to be encompassing and to take care of the situations we are encountering in our bid to curtail the pandemic. Then, of course, it required a holistic review of our laws. That was where the Quarantine Act and the NCDC Act are being sought to be reviewed by the National Assembly, culminating into the bill now that's pending, that is Infectious Diseases Act, which has passed the first and second readings in the House of Reps. Now, in my view, yes, there's a need for us to have a comprehensive act in view of the novel situations we are experiencing in Nigeria. However, I venture to say that our response so far is not because the acts we have or the laws we have are insufficient or inadequate to enable us have a coordinated and effective response to this pandemic. Yes, certain worries coming to mind concerning this act. Firstly, the manner in which the bill was introduced in the National Assembly is suspect. At the onset of this bill, when I heard what was going on in the National Assembly, I dismissed it as a joke, as a rumor, but it was a fake news. But I was compelled to make a call or make some calls to my friends, my clients who are in the National Assembly. And to my surprise, their response was what got me on alert. One told me that he wasn't even giving a copy of the proposed bill for him to study before the sitting of that house. And to confirm this, I went and did a search on the proceedings of the National House of Reps on that day, the 28th of April 2020. The Speaker of the House, who sponsored the bill, said, by way of apology to his colleagues, that because of the urgency of the bill, that it was not possible to prepare 360 copies of the bill to circulate to members of the House to study before that session, which raises a lot of questions. Why would the Speaker bring a bill when he has not obliged his colleagues the privilege of having a preview? Then what were they coming to debate? What contribution was he expecting them to make towards that bill? Now, that aside, we now go into the specific provisions of the bill. Yes, the intention might be okay, but from what we are seeing, the only way you can read an intention is to look at the bill proper. Look at the express wordings of the bill. Now, first of all, the bill seeks to enlarge, which in my view, to a draconian level, the powers of the Deputy General of the National Center for Disease Control, to give him so many powers, wide powers, discretionary powers, absolute powers, in a bid to control the spread or prevention of infectious diseases. Let me start by looking at some certain sections of the bill. Firstly, you look at this section 2 of that bill, empowers the DG of the NCDC to designate, appoint, or recruit anybody as a health officer for the purposes of discharging his duty. It says, okay, you can appoint a public officer, an officer of a statutory corporation, blah, 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 and anybody in his opinion he thinks will adequately discharge his duties. Now you'll be asking, does it mean that the DG of the NCDC knowing fully well the peculiarity and the speciality of infectious diseases, can appoint anybody to be a health officer. So he can go to the road and pick a Mr. A. So please now, I'm designating you a health officer for the purpose of discharging my duties pursuant to this bill, which in my opinion is too wide. It's too wide. We should circumscribe his powers, limited to the area, the specialty, the specialty, those who are versed in infectious diseases. First, that is the pool from which he should appoint officers for the purpose of discharging his duties. Now, Section 3 of that bill says that the minister may constitute an advisory council for the purpose of advising the DG in the discharge of his duties. Now, you ask, when you are giving a man such wide, near absolute powers to superintend the enforcement, implementation of such a decree, why should his powers not be fettered? And the word used here is may, which means the minister is not even bound to set up this advisory committee. Neither are the powers of the advisory committee spelled out in that act. It's simply instructive to state here that the proposed bill didn't even oblige us with what the qualifications of the DG of the NCDC should be.
Talking about some specific sections, especially the section that empowers the DG of the NCDC to appoint officials who it deems fit, whether they are qualified or not, and some other examples that you're giving of that seem to give very, very wide and sweeping powers to the DG of the Nigerian Council for Disease Control. So can you comment on the aspect that has to do with our freedom of association, where the DG is also giving power to go into meetings and put an end to such meetings?
It's not only a restraint to our freedom of association. There is an issue of freedom of movement. There is a movement that's equally a threatened infraction on right to the ownership of property. Now, the DG, by this bill, is empowered, first, to declare an area, to declare a building, to declare a structure a threat and susceptible to spreading infectious diseases. Now, once he is of the opinion or he suspects that that building is liable or prone to spread of infectious disease, he makes a declaration to that effect. Now, not only declaring it, he can prohibit anybody entering or leaving that building. He can, with his own discretion, direct that any meeting taking place of any sort, it could be a social gathering, it could be a religious gathering, it could be a political gathering, any sort of gathering, he can stop that gathering. Not only stopping it, he can even decree that for 14 days, no gathering shall take place in that structure. And this decree is renewable for further 14 days. And the funniest part of it is that he says that when he has made this proclamation, the only remedy is to appeal to the minister. And he says that the minister's decision is final on such a matter. Now, our constitution guarantees us freedom of religion, freedom of association, right to own property, and with a stroke of the pen, the National Assembly is attempting to take away these rights through this NCDC, this infectious disease health bill that's seeking to enact. Now, The act further empowers the DG to destroy a structure. It didn't qualify the kind of structure that can be destroyed. It said destroy any structure. So it can bring down anybody's house. It can bring down a place of worship. It can bring down a church. It can bring down an entertainment house based on the opinion of the DG.
Wow, those are very draconian provisions in that act, like you said. But we want to take a listen to our report on this issue. We'll be right back with you, sir.
On April 28, 2020, a bill for an act to repeal the Quarantine Act and enact the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill passed second reading in the Nigerian House of Representatives. The bill, which was sponsored by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, is set to empower the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) and make it more proactive in addressing infectious diseases. In reality, however, it potentially opens the door to a new set of legal and constitutional issues. It also creates a large door for government-backed fundamental human rights violations. One of the issues to consider is the speed with which the bill was passed without proper circulation to members of the House of Representatives themselves and total blockade of public hearing. Some members of the Green Chamber protested the speedy introduction of the bill, saying they were not given the opportunity to be abreast of the provisions of the bill before presenting it before the House. Representative Cedric Ogun of PDP Edo State said that there was need to be very careful with the powers that would be conferred on NCDC to administer vaccines. Also, Representative Nkem Abonta of PDP Abia State expressed fear that the vaccination may be made compulsory given the supposed conspiracy theories all over social media on vaccination. He said if the House was to do away with the public hearing on the bill, which is an integral part of lawmaking, there was need for time for members to critically look at the bill before it is passed.
Well, you're welcome back. You've been listening to CHIBUZOR AGUOCHA, a senior legal practitioner who's been talking about the implications of the passage of the Infectious Diseases Act proposed by the House of Representatives in Nigeria. And he's still going to join us. He's going to continue that discussion by giving us the legal ramifications, what will happen, and can that bill be stopped? How can the bill be stopped? We are going to continue our discussion with him now. So, Mr. CHIBUZOR, what do you think about the implications of passing a bill like this? Is there any way that we can stop this bill from being passed, apart from petitions we've been seeing in the public spaces, apart from the calls by civil society organizations and members of the Nigerian Bar Association and the like? What do you think we can do to actually stop this bill and give us some further implications if the bill is passed?
Yes, before we go to that place, I haven't finished the various legal ramifications of the bill. Now there is the power given to the DG to detain anybody he suspects is a carrier of infectious disease. Detain anybody or detain persons. There is a power too to arrest without warrant. There is equally the power to extract information, documentation. We have the Criminal Justice Administration Act, which says that before anybody is asked to make a statement, he must have the services of a legal practitioner of his choice. Now, this act, in the same way, is taking away this right. Right to freedom from arbitrary arrest, and conferring it on the DG of the NCDC. Now, as for the legal ramifications, this bill, as presently constituted, is threatening very serious violence to our constitutional rights. A bill cannot supersede the constitutional rights given to us. The Constitution is the ground norm. And any law that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is to that extent of inconsistency null and void. The Constitution has given us freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom to own property, even right to life. And this bill, cumulatively, with one full swoop, is attempting to strike at the foundation of these freedoms in the guise of control of infectious diseases. Now, the bill has to be stopped. Nobody is against an effort to control infectious diseases. After all, we all agree that and we'll be giving every necessary cooperation in helping NCDC to actualize their mandate. People are donating their houses, people are donating hotels, people are donating equipment, people are donating money, people are donating foodstuff to as palliative to people. All these are aimed towards cooperating, forging a partnership with the government via NCDC to curtail the pandemic. I don't see why people's rights should be subsumed because of this. Now, it is proper for civil society organizations, for NBA, human rights organizations, stakeholders to insist on having a say in the process of this bill. What is the hurry? How can a bill be brought in a day, past the first reading, second reading, was at the verge of going to the third reading before some members raised objections? Now we have seen that this pandemic has shown that everybody is a stakeholder in this enterprise. The business community is a stakeholder, the banking community is a stakeholder, the churches are stakeholders, the schools are stakeholders. Everybody's style of life is affected in one way or the other. And if those lifestyles, as guaranteed by the law, are to be contained, they must, as a society, be participants to this bill. They must contribute their own quota to fine-tune bill. Now, it will be an affront and technical to lawmaking if stakeholders, if there is no public hearing of this bill. And in this public hearing, I expect civil society organizations, religious organizations, business communities, people who are market associations, people who have been affected, whose life have been affected, to have an input in the way this bill is carried on. And most ludicrously, if you look at section 71 of that proposed bill, it says that no officer, the DG, no officer of the NCDC shall be liable for any act or omission committed in the course of discharging his or her duties pursuant to this bill. So imagine you lock down a man's house maliciously based on suspicion, and you say no liability will accrue from such a reckless act. Now consider this bill in the hands of a very autocratic, sadistic DG of NCDC. You invest him with such powers. He can decide to even quarantine a whole congregation. You say, oh, this church or this mosque, I suspect there's an infectious disease going on there. You close down the church, you close down the mosque, you close down the school without any prerequisite procedure to ascertain. It's just a rule of his thumb. He wakes up in the morning and says, oh, this place, I suspect there's an infectious disease in this place. Let's close it down. It becomes an instrument of oppression. It becomes an instrument of harassment. It becomes an instrument of victimization at the whims of the DG of the NCDC.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, you can go ahead. You can go ahead with your final thoughts, because we are wrapping up this and much we can take on this.
Yes, it's very instructive to say that the DG of NCDC has come out to say that he doesn't subscribe to a law being made under this condition, that the condition is not right to make such a law. Yes, you want to control infectious diseases, we all agree, but it must be within the ambit of the law what is acceptable, what is tolerable, what is reasonable in the circumstances.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your very, very passionate response to this topic. And this is what we want to see from members of the Nigerian Bar Association, civil society organizations, and the like. A lot of people are calling for a stop to the passage of this bill. The next hearing for this bill is supposed to be a public hearing, which was basically suspended and was supposed to basically pass through the third hearing. But June 4, it's another time for the bill to come before the House again. And we are hoping that more public opinion will come out and say no to the passage of this bill. And we have our bar book segment where we share our Latin maxim. Wow, wow, wow. That was a very, very interesting conversation with our senior legal practitioner who joined us online via call. And he talked about the need for the public and for all stakeholders involved and that will be affected by the passage of this bill to speak and get their voices heard. And we just heard about the new updates to that bill. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, who sponsored the bill, has now agreed for the bill to go for public hearing. And that is a very great step because that is a sign that our prayers are being answered. Yes, we are saying no to draconian rule. We are saying no to suspension of our rights. And our voices matter. So we'd like to hear your opinions and would like to hear your view generally. And if you have questions, we'd also like you to send your questions to us using our hashtag the courthouse, hashtag Loverplus. You can also reach us on our website on www.loverplus.tv. And you can also download our app, Loverplus, from any of the mobile app stores. I'm Ito Olomu-Agbodo. And I say, don't just get mad, go get a lawyer. Bye for now.